How's it going, guys? Cody back again, dropping yet another video. Right, guys, as you can see from the title, this story is a think tank who are urging the government, the Ministry of Justice, Her Majesty's Prison and Probation Service to release hundreds of prisoners on short-term sentences to combat the outbreak of the coronavirus. Going to do my bit at the end. Link in the description below. This is in the Independent. Headline reads: Coronavirus. Ministers urge to release hundreds of prisoners on short-term sentences to combat outbreak. A combination of overcrowded and insanitary conditions and poor quality healthcare in prisons means COVID-19 poses an increased risk to the system, says a think tank. Ministers even are being urged to release hundreds of inmates on short-term sentences in an effort to slim the prison population and aid the government's effort to combat the coronavirus outbreak. It comes after a prisoner tested positive for COVID-19 at HMP Manchester earlier this week, and campaigners warned the virus could spread like wildfire if it were to infiltrate Britain's prisons. The Reform think tank estimated there are 2,305 low-risk offenders currently serving sentences for crimes such as shoplifting and should be released into the community. The organisation claims that by releasing a large proportion of these inmates, the strain will be eased on both overcrowding in British prisons and on the prison workforce during this outbreak of the virus. Reform adds, in the short term, aid to fight against the coronavirus and significantly reduce the cost of holding offenders in prisons with a price tag of approximately £3,601 a month. Rather, the organisation said, than cover the cost of monitoring an offender with home detention curfew tag is around £166 a month, while a community sentence included unpaid work and probation meetings would cost around £368 a month. In a briefing paper, the organisation added, the virus presents an unprecedented problems for prisons, claiming a combination of overcrowded and insanitary conditions and poor quality healthcare in prisons means COVID-19 poses an increased risk to the system. The government should consider using emergency legislation to transfer all prisoners currently serving a sentence of 6 months into the HDC population, and to ban sentences from passing a sentence of 6 months or less. Certain offence groups such as violent weapons or sexual offences should be excluded from the proposed change in the rules, the group said. Aidan Shilson-Thomas, the think tank's criminal justice lead, added, delivering these vital measures would lead to a significant rebalancing of the justice system towards probation services. They will reduce the prison population, divert offenders to more effective punishments, and reduce reoffending. Tinkering at the edges of the prison population is not enough. The government cannot keep pushing the envelope with ever more crowded prisons, especially with the threat of COVID-19. We urge them to adopt these recommendations. Asked about the prospect of early release, however, a number 10 source said, the legislation today set out the steps we think would be required. I don't think that this was one of them. And that's the end of the story. So that's pretty much what I've been saying, guys. If you look at my last lot of videos, obviously these people are a lot more, far more articulate than me, quite intellectual and academic and quite articulate. I'm not. So I couldn't have put it better myself. Like I've said, guys, prisons are not just breeding grounds for extremism. Prisons are also breeding grounds for infections, viruses, diseases. Like I've said in 1,000 videos, when I first went to prison on remand at Strangeways, I was showering just barefoot. And one of the prisoners that had been in jail a long time said, listen, bro, never ever get in a shower without flip-flops on. He said, because you can pick up verrucas, scabies. Like I said, verrucas are nothing but scabies and stuff like that. And when I was in Forest Bank, for example, on another stretch, I even had my hepatitis B vaccination, just in case I ever get Hep B. I don't know much. I haven't got a clue. I just know it's hepatitis B. I don't know much more than that, but I still had my vaccination. But prisons are breeding grounds, guys. A lot of these prisons, bar like Berwyn, right, which is the super prison, super in only its size, super in only its size and its failings. That's a new build, right? But like I said, these prisons are dilapidated, they're run down, they're decrepit, they're not fit for purpose. You wouldn't house your animals there. You wouldn't keep a dog in those insanitary conditions. You just wouldn't. Like I said, these prisons are decrepit, they're run down, they're dilapidated. Look at Strangeways, an old Victorian prison. And the first prisoner in the UK system to get the coronavirus was a Strangeways inmate. Seriously, guys, it's no joke. And like I've said, prisons are dirty places, and they're decrepit and they're run down. And healthcare, when you've got a virus that's highly contagious and highly deadly, right, in unsanitary conditions, it's going to flourish, right? Then you've got prisoners that have got underlying health problems. Factor in the fact that prison healthcare is just, it's beyond words, to be honest. How they get away with it, guys, with the fact we've got human rights in this country, is absolutely astonishing. But like I said, I do believe everything that's said there is a massive, everything there. I don't disagree with one thing that this think tank have said. Normally I'm quite critical of these think tanks and stuff, but no, absolutely hit the nail on the head. And like I've said, you factor in, right, since this story's been written, it's been rumoured, estimated, that over 1,000 prison officers are off work, self-isolating. Some of them are blagging it, some of them are showing symptoms of coronavirus, some have got coronavirus. The first ever case of anyone confirmed as having COVID-19 was a prison officer at Highdown in Surrey. Then the first prisoner was at Strangeways. Since that, we've had confirmed cases at Oakwood, Wymott, HMP Birmingham, 2 in Kilmarnock, right? The thing is, and people might think, well, Cody, that's not a lot of people. Just because you've heard of confirmed cases, a small number, doesn't mean it's not everywhere in prison. All it means is that prison bosses are keeping a lid on stories getting out. When you're seeing like a prison officer with coronavirus, or you're seeing a prisoner at Strangeways confirmed with coronavirus, do you think, right, that as soon as that prison falls ill and they take him to hospital, they get on the phone and say, hiya, yeah, this is Strangeways, national papers, we're going to put out a press release just to confirm a prison officer from Highdown and a prisoner from Strangeways have contracted the virus? No, of course they fucking don't. You know, they sweep deaths under the carpet, guys. So with this highly contagious, deadly disease that's causing fear and panic amongst the prison population, not all of them, a lot of prisoners that I'm speaking to don't believe in it and think it's some man-made virus and it's just the rich have done it to wipe all the poor out on prisoners and everything. Other people are very, very serious about this highly deadly, highly contagious virus. Like I said, if you factor in reducing the prison population mixed in with over 1,000 officers off work self-isolating, it makes perfect sense. But to the government, they don't care. If they release prisoners on short-term sentences, like I said, it shouldn't be just short-term sentences. It should be those prisoners that have coming towards the end of their sentence as well. They're just talking about short sentences here. Like I said, a few hundred. For me, it should be a few thousand, at least 3,000-4,000. Release IPP prisoners, that's not going to happen. That's just wishful thinking on my part. Violent offenders, should they get it? Depends to the degree of the offence. But like I've said, I am all for releasing prisoners. But like I said, no sex offenders and nonsense rapists, no. But the same violent offenders, no. Prisoners that have got 6 months, 8 months, 12 months left, they should be released, they should be freed, right? And if you, like I said, exercise the release on temporary license, exercise HDC. For those that don't know, HDC is tag. For those that don't know, ROTL or ROTL is release on temporary license, right? It's like you're being entrusted out in the community and stuff with stringent measures, right? Goes down that way. They should release, like I said, it's cost effective, right? From what they've said there. To monitor someone on tag is £166 a month, where to house them in prison is £3,061 a month. So it's a financial thing. It's common fucking sense, right? Then you've got factor in there's over 1,000 officers off work with corona symptoms that are in self-isolation or confirmed cases of coronavirus. Prison populations that bursting at the seams, There's no next. The staff is minimal anyway, but then there's 1,000 off the landings. It's a lot, right? That impacts prisoners even further. There's a cost-effective measure to it. Unsanitary prisons, healthcare being piss poor, right? It makes complete and utter sense to release a few thousand prisoners, even though they're saying a few hundred. Will it happen? Absolutely not. I saw it as soon as it was mentioned. It was shot down, and the Ministry of Justice or the government pretty much said, we believe that prisoners should serve their sentences. They're going to get out eventually anyway. That's if they survive this coronavirus. Like I've said, guys, this coronavirus is in our prisons. The Strangeways one prisoner, right, confirmed. 13 prisoners were put in isolation. Again, prisons are extremely limited how they can isolate prisoners. Healthcare, that's fine and dandy. When you see record levels of assault, record levels of self-harm, prisoners dropping like flies over like spice and stuff like that, those healthcare wings potentially could be full, depending on what prison you're in, how big the wing is, etc. An overspill from that could be the segregation unit, which is a punishment block. They also put protection cases in there, high profile. Tommy Robinson, when he was in Belmarsh, he was out in the segregation unit. So this is the thing, guys. Or single cells. Now, there's a very distinct lack of single cells within the prison system. Listen to this. If you're in a cell with somebody and they're confirmed as having the virus, they assume that you've got it and you both get put in isolation. So if you didn't have it, because you're sharing the same space and stuff, you're going to get it because that's what they're doing. They're doubling up. If you're in a cell with a padmate and one of the tests positive for the coronavirus, you're both getting isolated. You're both staying in that cell together. Food brought to your door, etc., etc. Then they're talking about visits, guys. They're continuing to send people to prison, by the way. But then visits saying, well, we're going to scale back visits. We're going to make it so that only a limited number can come on a visit. But then they're still sending people to prison. People are out committing crime, doing whatever they're doing, get caught. Could be it could be a drug user that's shoplifting and doing bits and pieces, right? He's contaminated. Not necessarily, but it could be contaminated. He goes to court. They send him to prison. He goes onto the induction wing, and then if he doesn't go onto detox, he goes onto the induction wing, and then he's interacting with other prisoners, contaminating surfaces. Then he gets fed down into the main. So the main means the main part of the prison, and then he could have contaminated his padmate, and then his padmate goes to another wing, and it's like a spider's web, guys. You understand? So it's a very, very real possibility, and it's extremely dangerous. Like I've said, simply put, prison is the lowest rung on the welfare ladder. People don't care if prisoners die. Prisoners care. Prisoners' families care, and that's about it. Those on the right side of the tracks, they don't give two craps about prisoners. Hey, we can't reoffend if he's dead. That's Joe Public for you guys. That's those idiots that are whiter than white, that what they know about prisons you could write on a fucking stamp, right? The clueless idiots. But like I've said, this is a very real danger to the prison population. Unsanitary, overcrowded. You can't implement social distancing in prison. Fucking hell. You're crammed into a tiny fucking cell. If you're single cell, like I said, you'd want to isolate a prisoner in a single cell. But there's a distinct lack of single cells. So it's just easy to say, well, you've got it or you've got symptoms, so we're assuming you've got them. So you two are padding up together and staying in the same pad together. Putting those prisoners at risk, guys. Then you've got prison healthcare being piss poor. It's disgusting. How they get away? We've got human rights, or we're supposed to have, in this country. Prison healthcare, guys, is piss poor. It's shocking, right? And like I said, medical negligence is one way that prisoners have died in prison. It goes down that way. But again, they don't care. The system don't care. Do you think these government officials, do you think people that work for Her Majesty's Prison and Probation Service, do you think about Robert Buckland QC, who's the Justice Secretary of State, right? Do you think he gives a shit about prisons? Do you think that the Prisons Minister, Lucy Fraser MP, gives two shits about prisoners? Tushy balls. These people live in bubbles, guys. They can't relate to us in any which way. And any government have always been pro-punishment. So like I've said, but what these government things need to factor in, and these big wigs and stuff, and these people that, like I said, went to Eton and all these things, right? What they need to factor in is it's inevitable they're going to cancel prison visits. Firstly, they should put them on closed visits. They shouldn't put, like, you've got to put them on closed visits in the sense of contamination, right? You've got to put that thing. Say you've got a 86-year-old grandma going visiting her grandson in prison. Makes more sense to put her in a closed visit, doesn't it? Right? But then once they put prisoners on closed visits, or as they've done in Northern Ireland, cancelled all visits, what do you think that's going to do to the prison system, guys? You've got 1,000 prison officers off, right, that are self-isolating. That impacts prisoners' regimes, right? They're locked behind the door 23 hours a day right now. They're lucky if they get out for an hour for exercise a day, depending on what prison you're in, what regime you're running, etc., right? So prisoners, the growing angst and anger and tension within the prison estate. Prisons have already been a powder keg anyway, right? And then you add in the coronavirus, then you add in stopping visits or cancelling visits or scaling visits back, right? Once they stop visits for me, or a prisoner dies of the coronavirus in our prisons, you're going to see widespread violence. Now, like I said, let me know what you think. It's not about what I think, it's about what you think. I know nothing. I'm just a former prisoner. I think a certain way, right? I try to balance the argument, but like I've said, it goes, keeping prisoners in prison, these 2,305 prisoners that they've referred to, right? For me, it should be more, right? By releasing them, it just makes pure sense financially. They can be supervised in the community on tag, released on temporary license. It's cost effective. It takes the pressure off the prison system. There's over 1,000 officers that are off sick and self-isolating, already understaffed, right? And then you've got a prison system that's bursting at the seams. Common sense, guys. But this is the thing. All these people in government and stuff that are making the decisions, they might have like letters after the names and stuff, right? This is common sense. But like I've said, they do not want to release prisoners because they will be classed voting things down the line. They're like, oh, yes, soft on crime. I'm not voting for them. This is the thing. The real criminals, guys, are the ones that are in suits. When I watch Prime Minister's Question Time in the Houses of Parliament, I've never seen so many criminals under one roof since I was in prison. Last honest person to enter the Houses of Parliament with honest intentions? Yep, you guessed it, Guy Fawkes. Guys, what's going on in our prison system worries the shit out of me. Genuinely worries the shit out of me. Not bothered about nonsense and sex cases, no. General population prisoners, my heart goes out to, right? And like I've said, if they're not worried about this, they fucking should be, right? Because as soon as it hits prisons, as soon as it hits prisons, it's in prisons. Not if, it's not when, it's not even if, it's now, it's happening. And like I've said, just because you haven't read it in a fucking newspaper, don't be a sheep, right? Just because it's not at the papers and they're not confirmed cases out there, doesn't mean it's not happening. All it means the prison bosses are keeping a lid on stories getting out. If you've got any stories, guys, go to the media, local. This is a national story now. It's not even local, it's a national. Go local, go national, go radio, right? Get the stories out there. Speak up for prisoners. Don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. Speak up for prisoners, give prisoners a voice. Do the right thing. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Link in the description. Cody out.